Hey everybody, it's me again, the Sepia Scholar, aka V, and I'm back to review another episode of And Just Like That. I'm going to review season 1, episode 2, Little Black Dress. And before we start the review, just a couple things. This episode was super duper sad and depressing, and it made you think a lot about life and death. They had a few zingers here and there. Overall, I think it was an okay episode. Hopefully, the episodes will pick up after this, but let's get started. So, the episode starts off with Brady smashing his little girlfriend while Miranda and Steve have to suffer through it, which Sex and the City is known for its sex scenes and all the fun types of escapades of the ladies of the show, especially most famous ones to me are the one sex scenes that had Charlotte and Samantha. So it was always exciting to watch those back in the day. But now we're watching little Brady getting in, and Steve and Miranda are sitting in their room suffering through it. But thank goodness Steve can't hear a damn thing because his hearing aids don't work. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. While they're sitting there suffering through that, Miranda gets a call from Carrie to find out that Big is dead. Like a good friend, she shows up for Carrie. She stays with her even in the same bed. Shit, they're spooning in the bed while Carrie is mourning Big and wishing he was there to rub her back. Thank God Miranda didn't start rubbing her back. The thing would have went left. But it was a very, very touching scene of good friends. So then it spins off to Carrie setting up the funeral arrangements. She's watching some lovey-dovey funeral home videos with older folks dancing around and spinning. It was all just too much. I guess it was too much for her. Prior to that, Miranda said she was going to miss school to come help her with the funeral arrangements, but Carrie turns that down. So Charlotte is going to offer to help her, and the whole time Carrie is completely out of it, which makes sense because, I mean, her husband just died. And like I said, with Big, she fought so hard to be with him. I probably would have did a seance to wake him up or something, but I probably would have lost my whole shit. So Stanford and Anthony decide, after finding out Big is dead, they decide to stop fighting because they've been fighting the whole time. They seem to be a toxic relationship. So they decide not to fight anymore because it's petty. But as soon as they decide not to fight anymore, they give each other a hug, and Anthony quickly points out that the cologne that Stanford is wearing is the one that he hates, and it smells, and it was a super funny moment. So I really dug that. So Charlotte goes to the funeral home with Carrie, and Charlotte proceeds to get on my nerves, everybody's nerves, and being Charlotte, but she's playing her character to the T. That's how she was in the original, so it makes sense. When they walk into a place, it's very like bland, beige, like I said, how Big hated, very funeral home like, right? And Carrie immediately knows that Big would hate it because it was all about old people and death, and she knows he would never want to be buried there. Charlotte and her face, I already told you guys how I feel about how her face looks. I'm glad it's able to emote emotion, although it looks like it's been pumped up. Starts to break down because if Carrie hadn't gone to, in her mind, if Carrie hadn't gone to Lily's concert, she would have been there to save Big. Little does she know, Big was on the ground and Carrie was so busy crying, she didn't even try to save the man, but we're not going to go there. She blames herself and she starts boo-hoo crying, and the mortician mistakes her for the grieving widow because she was a mess. It was hilarious because Carrie automatically says she doesn't want to be here in the funeral home anymore. It's her, not them. And the lady's like, oh shit, I've lost out on the sale. So it kind of shows how death can be a business. It's not always about grieving, and sometimes the business of it all can take away from the sentimentalness of it, right? So Carrie puts Charlotte into an Uber, and she decides to go for a walk and sees a couple that look just like her and Big. I just remember that scene from the original series when they were out to dinner and they were by the water and they were arguing and they fell into the water. It looked just like them, same outfit, same suit. So she's reminiscing over their relationship. So that was a really sad moment. So it pans over to Professor Nia Wallace, our favorite black friend, getting stopped by security at the school because she couldn't find her ID, and Miranda comes out of the blue with her wokeness again. Y'all, I don't know how much more I could take of this. We love y'all. White people, we love you. We want you to be our allies, but sometimes you just do too much. Miranda starts to explain that she read about how to be an anti-racist, and it taught her when she sees something, say something. That's great, y'all. Continue to do that. But sometimes you're doing too much. The professor, I thought it was hilarious, told her, hey, it's not to kill Mockingbird. You need to calm down. My ID was in my bag. You didn't need to do all that. I didn't need a white savior. So that's going to come back later. So skip over to Charlotte. She's explaining to Rose and Lily about why they wear black to funerals and how funerals are a time to celebrate the people you love, and it shows you how important the people you love are. And so that was a really, really touching moment because she's explaining to her girls what the value of life is, and I thought that was an amazing moment. Then LTW, aka the Black Charlotte, shows up. She shows up looking like a chic Christmas tree. I don't know what the hell Nicole Ari Parker had on, but I'm sure it's fashionable somewhere. But she came in, did her scene, didn't have much impact, said it was okay that she was supposed to have lunch with Charlotte, and of course, because Big died, it was going to be canceled. So she did her little cameo and then twirled it back out, so wasn't much to it. Then it bounces over to Steve again. Steve and Miranda, they're standing in the closet talking about Big being dead, and Steve asked why was he on the bike. He knew he had a bad heart. And side note, just in case you didn't know, when Big ended up dying from being on that bike, the stock dropped 30%. The real life stock dropped 30%, and they actually had to put out a commercial about how Big was actually alive. Then they had to pull that commercial because, just in case you didn't know, allegedly, Chris Knowles, who plays Mr. Big, is being accused of sexual assault. So this has been all over the place and crazy in real life too. But back to the show, they start hugging it out and loving on each other. And you know how much I love Steve. He's so sweet. He's so sensitive, and he tells Brady to come give a hug. He's a normal teenager, doesn't want to hug it out. But the whole scene was cute. So then it pans over to Carrie sitting in her closet, sitting in Big's closet actually, looking at his suits, realizing he's not going to come back. And then she picks out an iconic outfit for the funeral. She had a beautiful little black hat on, very tasteful pearls. I mean, I think it's the best she looked throughout the show. It was very fitting for Big's funeral. I thought she looked beautiful. And Stanford, who is the king of inappropriateness, definitely said so, says, hey, her husband died, but she was still here to give us a look, and she is the Jackie O of our generation. And Anthony, one of my faves, says, I don't think you need to tell her that. And he said, I already did. So Stanford said, I'm here for it. I'm with the shits, and I'm going to be me no matter who's dead, who's not, who gets offended. So Carrie goes to the space where they're holding the funeral, which is beautiful. It was perfect for what she was trying to do, and it was so stunning, so classy. I don't want to die, but if I had to go, it was a lovely way to do it. Except I'm a flowery colored girl, so I would love flowers and tropical stuff, but she didn't want any flowers. And when she walks in, she sees flowers. And come to find out, she was getting upset, but come to find out, the flowers were from Samantha, so that's how they're incorporating her in the show as well. And so that was a lovely touch and an homage to her as well. Then Big Secretary Gloria saunters in. I guess she seems to be his mother figure because they're not really showing his parents. I think they only showed Big's mother one time when he refused to let Carrie meet her. And so his parents could be long gone, but Gloria, the secretary, seems to be his mother figure and know all about him. And our favorite non-binary person, Che, shows up to crack some jokes and reminds us to be woke again. And she makes her cameo and she goes and sits down. Stanford starts being Stanford. R.I.P. to him because he passed away too, just in case you didn't know, in real life. But he was a mess. He made sure that Gloria's sitting in his seat in the front row, and he came in. He was like, "Lady, you gotta go. I need to be next to my best friend." He has no chill. He wants to make sure that she sees him and he's present. And he wanted his husband Anthony to be next to him, so he could care less if this old lady was sitting up there, who she knew who she was. He was like, "Take your butt to the back and let me have my seat next to my best friend." So Stanford has no chill. Then they go back to the Miranda's gonna be a drunk storyline. She decides to go to the bar and get a drink before the funeral, saying that Steve is the one who sent over the drinks, and she wants some hard liquor early in the morning. And I'm like, just why? Why this storyline? I mean, between becoming friends with the black professor, seeming to be super woke, being drunk all the time, I don't know if I like what they're doing with her storyline. So back to the funeral. She goes back to the funeral after having her drink, and apparently she's giving the eulogy. And Stanford once again shows his jealous ways that Miranda's speaking. He was like, "I wish I could have given a few words." And I was just like, "Stanford, you're just doing too much. Now you're getting on my nerves." So Miranda gets up there and gives a beautiful, short and sweet eulogy, which was a fitting eulogy for Big, or John, right? To me, in the original series, he was a symbol of New York. He was everything New York, down to the business, the way he carried himself. To Carrie, he was New York. And so the way they sent him out was perfect because he was such a powerful character in the show. Gloria starts boohoo crying harder than Carrie. So I'm like, are they going to build a storyline out of this? Where is this going? I guess we'll see in the next episode because she seems to be crying way too hard for her position. So then his brother gets up there. Yes, Big has a brother. And he confirmed that Carrie made him happy. So I guess that gave her validation and made her happy to know that she made him happy in his last days. So then they come out with this big montage of classic rock. Perfect Big, right? And Gloria goes to just blubbering and acting a fool like a crazy auntie at a black funeral. And I was just like, oh, okay. I hope there's a reason for all of this. But my favorite part, because she kind of said what I wanted to say, was when Susan Sharon, the official bitch of the situation, she's always a bitch wherever she comes, she basically said, "Am I the only one who remembers how much of a prick he was?" And that's exactly what I was saying in my first video, that Big was really bad to Carrie, even standing her up at the altar. Yes, he ultimately married her, but he put her through hell to get there. But I guess they say, God bless the dead, don't speak ill of the dead, and they're just going to let all that ride. But, I mean, Susan Sharon is an asshole, but she's right. So then here comes Bitsy Von Mufflin, love tearing up her name, right? Coming in, basically confirming that Bobby, her gay husband, had passed away, and how she understood, and they made sure to say that he passed away due to the Rona early, so he couldn't have a real funeral. And she was basically gushing over the fact that Carrie was able to send off Big in such an amazing way. So that was really, really fitting. And just out the blue, Susan Sharon comes back, brought her crazy ass back over there to Carrie, and said she would forgive her, and started rambling about, I'm gonna let this time pass. You're gonna get out of, you have a get out of jail free card, and everybody's like, what in the hell is this lady talking about? And then she just left the scene. I mean, it's like I said, it's classic Susan Sharon. Come, wreck up the place, mess up the energy, and then go about her business. So that was hilarious to me, even though it was super inappropriate. And then Steve, being sweet Steve, declares his love again to Miranda and says if it was her in the casket, that he would lose it. And I believe that, because he loved that woman. So outside, now we're going outside. Brady's out there smoking trees with Che, our favorite woke non-binary comedian, and Miranda comes out and cusses her all the way out, like an old dog, like they say down south. And I lost it, because she got in her face, and Miranda was like, back the fuck up. I was like, okay, Miranda kind of hardcore. I say, that's a kind of a big, what? I think they refer to all of them as they. That's a big day to be running up on, so got to make sure we're PC. And I was just like, why? She just starts losing it because he was smoking. And all I can think about mine is I'm a patient descent, and when Miranda was like, "Hey, next thing you know, you're gonna have him out here smoking that rock." I'm not gonna say the word. And all I can think is all Haitian moms think every drug is that rock, and it just really, really made me chuckle. So there were some good comedic parts, even though this episode was super duper sad. So after they get into this big argument and Che runs off, she goes back. Miranda goes back into the funeral and promptly gets introduced to Che by Carrie. It was super awkward. They make amends. She's calling her a mama bear, saying she's a silverback, and they're low key flirting. So I can kind of see where they're going with this. I guess they're trying to do an art imitates life, because Sex and the City Miranda was totally against same sex interactions, but Cynthia Nixon left her husband. I'm gonna say allegedly, totally happened, for a lady that looked just like him. So this is what happened in real life. She left her husband for a lady. But hey, if that's what she likes, I love it too. Carrie gets home. The funeral is over. Carrie gets home and tries to and texts Samantha thank you, and still no response. So I guess they're gonna have her like a figure hovering over the whole season until they can figure out they're gonna to kill her off or bring her back. Who knows? So now we're in the subway and everybody's hanging out, and one of those dang on looks like one of those prank YouTubers that really work my nerves have a Chucky doll starts coming down the stairs and harassing all the people down there in the subway. And he basically goes towards the black professor and tries to take her purse. And Miranda and the black professor had shared a joke. I skipped that part about why Miranda carries around books instead of using a Kindle. I love books too, and I love to flip the pages, but I love a good audiobook too. But she was saying because I'm old school and I like to flip the pages. So when the little Chucky man went to go attack the black professor, Miranda bonked him over the head with one of them heavy ass, dusty ass books she was lagging around, and they were like, "Oop!" It came in handy. So that was a little bonding moment between them. So her and the professor, I guess, are going to be homegirls now. So I guess that was cute. So that's how, like I said, they're incorporating more people of color in the show. So we'll see where this goes. If they're going to they feel like furniture in the show because they're moving people around. It's not deep. So we'll see if they'll have anything of any depth. The professor has the most depth, I think, out of everybody, because the Nicole Ari Parker character, LTW, to me has absolutely no depth. So when they zoom back to Carrie in her apartment and big dashes show up in the mail like Amazon, and I'm like, what in the world? Is that how they deliver ashes? People, let me know. Leave a comment, because I have no clue how they do the ashes. Thank God I haven't had a death of somebody super duper close to me. I've had people that I love that I lost, but for their ashes to show up in a Amazon box would be very devastating for me. So she calls Stanford and Morant to come over to soothe her, and then Charlotte pops up. Remember, Charlotte is a crybaby, so she really don't want to deal with Charlotte's ass. And she pops up and she tells Stanford to hide because she knows damn well that Miranda is not going to. She tells Stanford to hide so Charlotte wouldn't be offended that she didn't ask her over. Stanford being Stanford, his non-hiding ass actually tries to come back and get his drink, and then Charlotte sees and she gets upset and starts boohoo crying, her and the blips, and she admits, Carrie has to finally admit to her that she resented Charlotte, that she was, because she was at her recital instead of being home with her husband, but she also ultimately knows it's not their fault, but it turns into a screaming match, and a neighbor comes out, she's like, "Ooh, now I'm that neighbor that's sitting out and making noise in the hallway, so let's go back inside." So all that gets handled, and it's back to her and Miranda being in the bed, and she gets up and she goes and sleeps next to Big's ashes. Sleep, but not really sleep. And that's how the episode ends. So what do you guys think? I thought the episode did what it had to do. They put Big to rest. Overall, I'm not super impressed with the show, but it was giving me more than what Insecure was giving me in the first few episodes, except the episode before the series finale tonight, with the little quips and jokes. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. I'm going to try to stick with the show only because I have loyalty to Sex and the City. It was my show. So like, share, comment, let me know what you thought about the episode. And until next time, I'm going to sit here and finish playing with my elf hat. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy after Christmas. Love you guys. Mwah.